got to talk about this plane that recently crashed in Toronto. This Delta plane that crashed in Toronto. I can't even talk. Toronto, Canada. Mainly because mainstream media, of course. Yeah. And I'm going to get into that later in the video. But before we get into that, I got a couple of clips to show you guys exactly what actually happened. Now, the reports are that everyone survived, so just be aware of that when you're watching this clip. It does look pretty wild, okay? But everyone survived, as far as I know from the reports. Everyone survived. Some people obviously had to go to the hospital, but everyone is alive as of now, as far as the reporting goes. So with that being said, let's dive in.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, no, 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 no. Tower, you're seeing this airplane just crash into 3. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Well, hold here. Come on, take that out.
So you saw that clip there, and it looked like the wing actually touched the tarmac right there, and that's when you see the snow kicking up from the ground and everything, and then of course the wing gets torn off. And I think, obviously I'm no professional, this is just me watching the video, I think that's what caused the plane to actually flip over. I don't know if you guys saw that there, but the plane actually flips over on its head, and you can see the left side wing right there straight up in the air, and then the plane flips over. So yeah, but thankfully, yeah, you do see a little bit of fire there, but when the plane finally stops, it was not an inferno, which I think obviously helped in the survival rate for these folks. And here's actually a video of some of these folks actually making it off that plane.
Everything, drop it. Come on. Don't take your video. Take that phone away. No.
Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Oh my fucking God. Yo, I was just on this fucking plane. Oh my God. Yo, I was just on this fucking plane. Holy fuck.
Yeah, so you can see, obviously the plane is not on fire currently, but there does seem to be some jet fuel that has obviously spilled, so they're trying to get everyone away before that does ignite. But everyone survived, thankfully. That's the great news, okay? Obviously, you don't want to see a tragedy like that. But here's also a news report on the entire situation and a breakdown. Check it out.
To a story we have been following since mid-afternoon.
18 passengers were injured after a Delta plane flipped upside down during landing at Toronto Pearson Airport.
Here's what we know tonight. The FAA says 80 people were on that plane at the time of the crash. 76 passengers and 4 crew. The aircraft was arriving from Minneapolis. There were no deaths or critical injuries, this according to airport officials.
We also learned that the same aircraft that crashed flew from Cleveland to Minneapolis earlier today. NBC's Tom Casello has the latest.
On the runway in Toronto, a terrifying end for Delta Flight 4819.
Our plane crashed. It's upside down.
Lying upside down on the runway, an Endeavour Air regional jet had just arrived from Minneapolis in gusty winds when something went terribly wrong.
This airplane just crashed at 23.
As thick black smoke poured from the plane, firefighters smothered the scene in foam. The right wing ripped off, the fuselage bearing what appeared to be skid or soot marks.
Everything, drop it.
All 80 people on board managed to escape through the emergency exits.
I was walking to this fence and I could see a CRJ that is possibly crashed on the airport. The airplane is flipped
18 people injured and transported to area hospitals, including 2 airlifted to trauma centers. 1 child rushed to Children's Hospital in Toronto.
I've seen a few people on stretchers that we have transported. I have seen one person with a sling on their arm, and I've seen others that are just potentially exposure type injuries because it is very cold here.
The plane, a Bombardier CRJ 900 regional jet made in Canada, is a workhorse for short-haul flights worldwide. At the time of the crash, it was 18 degrees with 20 to 30 mile-per-hour winds and strong crosswinds. The question for investigators, how and why did the plane lose at least one, maybe both wings on landing, then flip over, causing jet fuel to spill onto the runway?
I think it's possible the wing may have touched the runway due to a gust. And if that's the case, then the rest of this makes sense. But the recorders are going to show that.
In a statement, Delta says our primary focus is taking care of those impacted. The flight was carrying a total of 80 people, 76 passengers, and 4 crew. The investigation now will be led by the Canadian Transportation Safety Board, with both the U.S. FAA and NTSB assisting.
And that was NBC's Tom.
So yeah, you saw that little bit of a breakdown. Here's actually a guy that was on the plane talking about that a little bit.
The winds were
let me put this on the big screen. Here we go.
super gusty. The snow had kind of blown over the runways. It was routine, but like it was noticeable that the runways were kind of in a weird condition. And when we hit, it was just a super hard, like I hit the ground and the plane went sideways. And I believe we skidded like on our side and then flipped over on our back. Where we ended up, there was like a big fireball out this left side of the plane. And it was mass chaos. I was upside down. The lady next to me was upside down. We kind of let ourselves go and fell to hit the ceiling, which is surreal feeling. And then everybody was just like, get out, get out, get out. We could smell like jet fuel. Even now I smell like jet fuel. And then we just crawled out the back of the airplane. The firefighters, the EMTs were there right away.
Yeah, so there was one of the survivors that was on the plane describing the entire situation. But here is another, well, the main reason why I wanted to make this video is what NBC decided to do in light of this crash happening. Now, thankfully, nobody was pine boxed in this situation. But it's also not surprising that NBC decided to say this.
I did want to, underscore, to pick up on the conversation you were just having, though, in terms of the recent string of aviation incidents, Tom. This is going to, yet again, raise the concern about FAA staffing, air traffic control staffing. Now, this is a Canadian air traffic control tower, and this is under Canadian authority once it crosses the border. And yet, as you know, there has been this talk about maybe staff cuts at the FAA as a part of President Trump's effort to trim down the federal workforce.
Oh, blame Trump, even though the plane landed and crashed in Canada, though.
And yet, as you also know, the FAA has been complaining for years that they are understaffed in critical job positions, especially air traffic control. I was having a conversation with somebody today about whether air traffic control in America is being affected by the staff cuts. So far, not to their knowledge, and yet other positions related to maintaining critical equipment appear to have been cut. So this is going to feed into all of these recent incidents, and the safety of the total air traffic system is going to be very much a part of the conversation.
Yeah. Blame Trump. Even though that plane didn't land on American soil. It's Trump's fault, though. He cut the FAA. He fired people. But that's also misinformation. Yeah. Scott Jennings, shout out to Scott Jennings, was on CNN, and he actually addressed this.
There are 45,000 employees at the FAA. We're talking about fewer than 400 people, and he says 0 air traffic controllers and critical safety personnel were let go. So if that's true, I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I do like the idea of keeping the people who are in the direct chain of command of safety and the air traffic control system and so on and so forth. But I have a hard time believing that there is a single government agency that doesn't have a bloat of administrative personnel that we could probably do without. And I think that's why a lot of voters are happy that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are finally going through the federal government and trying to take out some of this bureaucracy that we probably just don't need. So
say that again.
We're talking about fewer than 400 people, and he says 0 air traffic controllers and critical safety personnel were.
0 air traffic controllers and 0 safety personnel have been fired. But of course, NBC, the first thing that they do, before we know all of the facts of this situation, we're all just guessing, right? The first thing that they do is accuse Trump. It's Trump's fault. Yep, it's Trump's fault. He fired people, and him firing people caused this crash, even though it wasn't on American soil. This was in Canada. They are so desperate. Like, some days I have a hard time wrapping my mind around it. It's just like, bro, this is blatantly obvious that you're reaching. You're reaching for no reason. And you wonder why your ratings are tanking and people don't believe you anymore. Like, that's a blatant reach. I want to blame Trump, so this is Trump's fault. How? Make that make sense. You can't. That had nothing to do with Trump, nor did he fire any air traffic controllers or any safety personnel. So it really has nothing to do with Trump, even if it was on American soil. But the fact that it wasn't on American soil and they still decided to, the first thing that they would do is blame Trump. I just, like, we have to be living in an alternate world at this point. That is just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Literally, you had Face the Nation blame free speech, blame the Holocaust on free speech because Trump is for free speech. Trump and Vance are for free speech, and Vance went to the Munich conference and schooled all the European leaders on themselves censoring freedom of speech. And JD was like, yeah, y'all basically crazy. Y'all shouldn't be doing this. This isn't a democracy that y'all say. This isn't the democracy that y'all claim to be. And so she went on a rant. Free speech caused the Holocaust. Like, come on now. And now they're saying stuff like this. It's Trump's fault, even though the plane didn't land on American soil. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. Shameful stuff. Shameful stuff. All these folks should be fired immediately. But of course, they won't fire them. They won't fire them. These networks are dying, and I guess they're just going to have to completely fizzle out before any of this changes. We're going to have some new networks in the next, 4 or 5 years. These networks aren't going to survive this. This is crazy. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Peace and love. I'm out.